overall, like holistically, and our phases to make sure we're on track is to use the performance management chart within Training Peaks. People love this. First off, it does not directly represent your fitness, does it, Matthew?
No, it does not. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Actually, I think this is really good. Like, this is about as good as it gets. So if we record every training session and we're taking into account other things in our lives and we're not using this as the end all be all of our fitness, I think it's a very, very good tool to use to track our fitness.
Yeah, and this is taken from an athlete I worked with, a professional triathlete. And so you can see here we've got our race season, right? So we've got our main training blocks where we have, if you're looking right at the left, we've got base phase. Some pretty hefty training loads going on there. Then there's like a test race and some rest. And then we get into like the next training block, which is event specific. So obviously the ATL, or the pink line, the acute training load or the fatigue, is not as high in the following training block because we have a larger amount of recovery, more demanding sessions, but larger amount of recovery. But you can see what happens in the race season. If we're looking at the blue line, the chronic training load, aka fitness, it starts to decline, but we're able to minimize. We weren't forcing training. We definitely weren't forcing the load. And you can see the orange or yellow, which is representative of freshness, increase all the way up until the end of the season before we get into subsequent training blocks and sickness. Like, you can only train so much. But what you can do by looking at these, especially retroactively, like this is when we sat down at the end of the year to go over things, we can go through it and go, you know what, this was too long, this was too short, these were too high. And it's going to make sure it's just keeping you on track. You have these goals, you have these base phase goals and boxes you want to tick. So you can actually just go back and go, did we do it? And I know, Matt, like with you say you'll pull up like 3 years and try and compare them across those years to see where those different peaks and troughs happen.
Yeah, it's important, like if we have a long history with an athlete, that we're able to compare season to season, not just what we did one season to the next or within a season. But I really like what you did here with this graph, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking at this, scratching their heads and seeing that blue line, which represents fitness, going down across race season. So in terms of confidence with an athlete, like how does that affect the confidence of an athlete to be able to just focus on being really, really fresh? Would you be able to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, what was, I guess, really good with this athlete is he was one of those guys that just looked at the session, right? So I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, where you have some athletes, they go, tell me what I need to do. It says 60-minute bike ride, I do a 60-minute bike ride, no problems. If I'm tired, I don't do it. Like, kind of the ideal ones. You're the data guy, I pay you for my data, for the training, for the analysis. You do that. Come to me when you've got something important to tell me. Then you have the other ones who go, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to help you, not the other way around. And they go, oh, my fitness is declining, and if I've had a season like this with one of those athletes, and what happened, man, tell me if you've heard this before, there'd be another session pop up. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and there was a rest day. Oh, it was an easy 60-minute run. I was like, okay, well, there's no such thing, and I didn't plan for that. So let's, but I need, my CTL is dropping below 80. I was 84 last time, and it can be so incredibly hard to try and educate your athlete when something's called fitness and it's going down. It's a hard one to get your head around. But in terms of this athlete, this is what I did for him at the end of the season. He didn't look at it like at all. It was all me until I showed him where potentially we went wrong with some of the results and sickness that we tried to push the season out too far. But Yeah, it can be a struggle, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think like it's important to remember though that like fitness doesn't mean performance. Like just because you're more fit doesn't mean you're going to perform better, because performance is a mixture of fitness and freshness, and if you're not fresh, you're not going to be able to perform. And we see this all the time with our athletes when they have their rest periods, which is also part of training, right? It's built into this, and it's a training phase that we'll test before and we'll test after our rest periods, and they're so surprised that after a month of no training, nothing's changed. So the fitness will be way down in that case, but that doesn't mean that their performance is always going to be down, because you just get more fresh when you're resting. So it's about finding that mixture.
Yeah, that's right. And it's representative. It's not a direct correlation between your fitness and the blue line.
Dr. Matt and I started the Performance Advantage podcast to help runners, riders, and outdoor competitors integrate sports science more effectively into their training and racing.
So over the last few years, Dr. Will and I have covered topics like the lactate threshold, training zones, power meters, and fatigue. Now we're condensing these popular and misunderstood topics into practical courses.
Our courses take our same podcasting style approach to learning and education, and we break it down into bite-sized chunks that you can digest either all at once or as practical little resources to use as and when you need them.
So the biggest difference between our course and any other course you might have taken is that we don't lecture you. It's a conversation between Will and I, and we're explaining complex sports science principles in an easy to understand manner.
Yeah, we also integrate how we use them on the regular. Our courses come with a certificate of completion, as well as a lot of takeaway resources such as training plans, scientific articles, and quizzes that you can do to check your progress along the way.
Our sports science courses are available now. Register on performanceadvantagepodcast.com for immediate access.